On the coldest morning of the year, before the sun had even risen, a young man named Ian stood at a lonely bus stop, rubbing his numb hands together as icy winds sliced across the empty street. His shoes were soaked from last night's rain, the soles worn out, and his thin sweater did nothing against the freezing November air. He had barely slept, barely eaten, and barely had enough money left in his pocket to make it through the week. Yet even in his exhaustion, Ian noticed her, the woman standing a few feet away, shivering uncontrollably, hugging herself as if trying to hold her bones together. Her clothes were soaked, her hair tangled with frost, and her eyes were red as if she had cried all night. She looked utterly lost. Something inside Ian pulled him forward. Without thinking of his own misery, he slowly removed his only warm jacket, the one he used every winter, the one he could not afford to replace, and gently placed it over her shoulders. In that moment, their eyes met, and though neither spoke, something powerful and unseen began to shift, like destiny had just whispered a new chapter into both of their lives. Before we go deeper into this emotional journey, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, Whispers of Kindness, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the unseen ways life returns goodness to those who give without expecting anything in return. The woman's name was Zara Malik, though Ian had no idea who she was. To him, she was simply someone in need, someone with trembling hands and tear-stained cheeks. She clutched the jacket tightly as if it were the only warmth left in her life. Ian stepped back quietly, embarrassed by his own appearance, hoping she wouldn't feel uncomfortable. He was used to being invisible, used to being overlooked, used to life pushing him into corners where hope rarely reached. But that morning, as he watched Zara breathe a little easier, he felt something he hadn't felt in months: purpose. The bus was late, as always, screeching to a stop with a harsh growl. Ian climbed aboard without looking back, not wanting her to feel obligated to thank him. He didn't believe kindness needed recognition, it was simply what people should do when the world forgot its softness. He sat near the back, pulled his thin sweater around himself, and prepared for another long day at the warehouse, a place where his body was used, his efforts ignored, and his paycheck barely survived past rent and groceries. But just before the doors closed, the woman stepped inside. She scanned the bus until her eyes found him. Ian froze, but she simply held his jacket close, nodded at him with a look filled with unspoken gratitude, and sat down quietly. Ian didn't know that she had spent the night wandering the city after receiving news that shattered her life. He didn't know she was a CEO whose company was worth millions. He didn't know she had lost someone important to her and had fled everything, seeking silence, space, anything to breathe. All he saw was a human being drowning in pain. And all she saw was the first warmth offered to her since her life had broken. A few days passed, and Ian forgot the encounter. He was too overwhelmed by life to dwell on moments that felt like distant dreams. His landlord was pressuring him for rent, his job had cut hours, and he was barely surviving on instant noodles and borrowed hope. He worked with blistered hands, lifting heavy boxes until his back felt ready to snap. Yet he never complained. He simply kept going, because giving up was not an option for someone who had no safety net beneath him. Meanwhile, Zara could not forget the young man with tired eyes and a silent heart full of kindness. She wore his jacket the entire day after that, feeling its warmth like a shield. She kept remembering the way he placed it around her shoulders without hesitation or expectation. In a world obsessed with profit and speed, his gesture felt like a soft miracle. For days, she wondered about him. Who was he? Why did he give away the only warm thing he owned? Why did his eyes hold so much sadness yet so much compassion? She felt indebted, not for the jacket, but for the unexpected reminder that humanity still existed. Driven by a feeling she couldn't explain, she began searching for him. Her company, Malik Innovations, had hundreds of employees, branches across the city, and resources powerful enough to locate almost anyone. But Zara didn't want to use power to find him. She wanted to find him the same way he found her, without labels, positions, or barriers. She revisited bus stops, walked through the routes, and observed faces, hoping to spot him. Every day she stood quietly at the same bus stop where he had saved her from freezing, waiting for a moment of fate. One evening, after another exhausting shift, Ian exited the warehouse with shoulders slumped. As he limped toward the bus stop, he noticed a figure standing there, a familiar one. Zara's heart pounded with relief when she saw him. His hair was messy, his sweater too thin for the cold, and his hands raw from labor. Yet he carried himself with quiet dignity. She approached him slowly, the same jacket folded in her hands. Ayan stared at it, then at her, shocked that she kept it this whole time. Without words, she returned it to him, but there was something in her expression, a mix of gratitude, respect, and a desire to know more. She had met countless wealthy people, powerful individuals, and learned that sometimes the richest hearts lived in the poorest bodies. She saw that in him. The next morning, to Ayan's confusion, he received a message from HR at his company. He had been transferred to a new department, one with better pay, better hours, and far better treatment. He thought it was a mistake. He thought life was finally teasing him with false hope. But when he arrived, his new supervisor greeted him with unusually polite respect. The atmosphere felt different, lighter, kinder. What he didn't know was that Zara had personally intervened, anonymously, ensuring he was placed in a position where he would no longer be exploited. Days turned into weeks. Every few evenings, Zara appeared at the bus stop, sometimes with coffee for him, sometimes with a simple smile. She began learning bits of his life, how he supported his younger sister's education, how he worked endless shifts to cover rent, how he dreamed of studying again but never had the chance. The more she learned, the more she admired him. His strength was not loud. It was the kind that stayed through storms, the kind that refused to break even when the world asked it to. And Ayan, without realizing it, became the reason she got out of bed each morning. He reminded her of kindness, of genuine humanity, of the beauty in ordinary lives. One day, after a long conversation at the bus stop illuminated by sunset, she made a decision. She would not let his kindness fade into another forgotten story. She arranged to meet him in her office, though she did not tell him who she truly was until the moment he entered the elegant conference room. Ayan froze, unable to reconcile the shivering woman he had helped with the powerful CEO sitting before him. He felt embarrassed, underdressed, unworthy. But Zara stood and walked toward him with the same humility she had felt that cold morning. She told him the truth, about who she was, about how lost she had been that night, about how his kindness had been the only thing that kept her steady, and how she wanted to change his life. The way he unknowingly changed hers. Ayan could not hide his disbelief. No one had ever stepped forward for him. No one had ever lifted him from darkness. Yet here she was, offering him an opportunity he had only dreamed about. She wanted to hire him for a new training program, one that would help him grow, learn, and eventually take a leadership role. She wanted him to rise, not because he pitied her that night, but because he had proven the depth of his character. He accepted, not out of greed, but because for the first time, someone believed in him. As months passed, Ayan transformed. His confidence grew, his skills sharpened, his life slowly stabilized, his sister completed her studies. His debts shrank, his nights were no longer haunted by fear of eviction or hunger. And through it all, Zara stood by him, not as a CEO watching an employee succeed, but as a friend whose life he had unknowingly rebuilt with a single act of kindness. By the time his first major success came, a project he led, one that saved the company millions, Zara watched him from the back of the room with quiet pride. She didn't clap the loudest, she simply smiled, knowing the universe had brought them together for reasons neither could have predicted. Near the end of the year, on another cold morning, Ayan stood once again at the same bus stop. But this time he wasn't alone. Zara stood beside him, no longer shivering, no longer lost. She wore a new jacket, not because she needed warmth, but because the old one, the one he had given her, had become a timeless reminder of the moment that changed both of their lives. And in that silence, as the wind brushed past them, Ayan realized something profound. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness becomes the turning point of a lifetime. Sometimes offering your only jacket creates a destiny you never saw coming. And sometimes the people we save end up saving us back in ways we never imagined. If this story touched your heart, please don't leave without liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to Whispers of Kindness. Your support helps us continue bringing real, emotional, life-changing stories to you. Before you go, special request. Please comment below. Kindness lives forever.